Hi guys, welcome back to Tyne Valley Motorhomes. This is the handover of a Bailey Autograph 74-4. So as I start the walk round on the driver's side of the motorhome first, the first point you get to is your mains connection point. So this is where you'd hook the vehicle up using hookup lead to mains electric. Whether that be charging it at home or when you arrive on your site and you've paid for electric, you can hook up here. So to hook up, you get your hookup lead, lift the collar up, just so it exposes the connection, and then you want to push it onto the connection of the vehicle and then connect the other end to the site. Always do it in this way and in reverse when unhooking so that you're never walking around with a live lead. Next you have your gas locker. So I've put our gas bottle on here just to test the gas appliances and show you them working. So that's a 6 kilogram propane bottle, and that one being colour, but this motorhome does run on propane, whether that's colour, floor gas, whatever you can get your hands on, but it needs to be propane because it has a lot lower freezing point than butane, because butane in the winter will freeze at a lot higher temperatures. And to connect this pipe from the regulator to the bottle, which is known as the pigtail, it's left to tighten, right to loosen, so opposite ways with it being gas. Once you've got it hand tightened on, you want to use an adjustable spanner or a wrench. Just pop it around the top of the pigtail and nip it up. Once it's nipped up, you can then turn the bottle on. You don't need to turn this all the way, just turn it a couple of turns so that if you ever need to quickly isolate it, you can. Otherwise, you'll have to keep turning and turning and turning. Space for a spare bottle, so if you are carrying a reserve bottle, you would just disconnect the pigtail and put it onto the other should it be empty. And you do have a crash sensor, which is this yellow toggle in the middle of the Truma regulator. If that pops out, which it will, because the crash sensor has gone off, you just need to press and hold it for 5 seconds and it'll stay in and allow the gas to come back through into the motorhome. This is your water connection. So to fill the vehicle with water, you've got a square wheel connection that goes on there, and on the other end of the pipe you can either have it as a pump or you can have the one with the hose pipe where you connect it to the tap, and this will fill your freshwater tank. So your fresh water on board is used for all your taps and your toilet, so you would fill it there. So when you arrive on your site, just connect it all up and fill your freshwater tank. If you want to take a bit of water with you from home, all you need to do is put about 20 litres in. That'll give you ample water to use the toilet, stop and have a cup of tea if you're on a longer journey. 2 fridge vents, and then just behind the back wheel you do have a grey exit tap. This is your waste tap. So when you are finished on your site, if you're not on a super site, if you're on a super site, you can get a bit of hose and you can connect it to the gully and leave it open all the time, because there'll be a disposal grade on the way out on the back of the site. If not, it'll be on the way out of your site, and all you do is drive over it and you want to open the valve and deposit your grey water. So this is dishes water, hand basin water, shower water, cups of tea, anything you put down the plug hole. Make sure this is always drained off before you leave site, otherwise you're going to be carrying added weight for no reason, because you can't do anything with the dirty water. It's dirty. Get rid of it, and you'll mean you're lighter on fuel, and your payload isn't being impacted because of the dirty water. In the winter, you want to make sure that this is fully drained off so the water doesn't freeze. Here you have your cassette. So all your outdoor lockers open with the Bailey key. So this is your cassette locker, and all you need to do is lift the orange handle and slide the cassette out. Once you've got the cassette out, you can lift the handle and drag it to your waste disposal point, which is normally beside your toilet block. Once you get there, remove the grey cap from the cassette, pop that to one side, press the orange button at the back. Just when you're pouring it, stops it glugging, gives a bit of air into the cassette. Pour the content of the cassette out. Once you've done that, there's normally a tap, so you would put a bit of water in, give it a rinse before going in with a cap full, which is 120 ml of chemical, blue or green, into the cassette and pushing it back on board. Coming around to the back of the vehicle, you've got your high level brake light and reversing camera. If you're going to put a bike rack on the back, this is where the back panel has been strengthened to take a bike rack, and it'll be a Fiamma Pro C bike rack that it will take, as these are Fiamma bars. Aldi flue for your heating and hot water system, so your boiler, so just make sure that's always obstruction free. It works on both gas and electric, but the flue will only be used on gas. Storage underneath your bed. You've got your fuel omnister awning. External gas point, so if you want to do some outdoor cooking on a Kadak, Kadaks are very good barbecues for motorhomes and caravans. You can get a quick release connector which connects onto here. Once you remove the red stopper, get a length of gas hose and some Jubilee clips connected all together, and this will supply your Kadak with gas from the bottle on board. But you will just need to turn on the yellow gas tap at the back there to allow the flow of gas to come through. Outdoor television point with mains outdoor plug, so if you're wanting some power in your awning, just connect there. As long as the motorhome's connected on the other side to hook up, you'll get power in that source. At the passenger door, this is where you fill with diesel using the main ignition key, so you can fill with diesel, which is a 70 litre tank. And underneath, because it's a new Euro 6 style diesel engine, it does have AdBlue. So the AdBlue on a Fiat Ducato / Peugeot Boxer, which this is a Peugeot, is 19 litres. So you can buy this at the pump. It's about 140, 150 a litre on the pump, like the wagons, and you can just fill it, or you can buy it in the drums of 10 or 5 litre capacities and tip that in. The light will come on the dash between the fuel and temperature gauge to let you know when your AdBlue is low. It'll do a full 5,500 mile on AdBlue, so when it gets to 4,500 mile that you've covered, the light will come on and tell you that it's time to top up. Tyre pressures can be found here, so Bailey's cold tyre pressure, so 80 psi on the front, on the back should I say, and 50 on the front. Underneath the passenger seat is where the toolkit lives, which has got a jack and a brace and a tow and eye in. Underneath the floor, this compartment lifts up, and that's where your engine battery is. It's not underneath the bonnet, it's underneath the floor on a Boxer. And your bonnet release is on the side of the dashboard. Underneath the bonnet, you've got all your fluids to the left-hand side. So the main one you're going to need is your screen wash, which is here. Then if you lift and turn these 3 tabs, lift this cover off, you've got your power steering fluid, your coolant and your brake fluid, your oil filler and your dipsticks for checking your levels there. Paint code can be found on this sticker here, should you ever need paint for touch-ups or repairs. And then to give or receive a jump start, you would earth off here and put your positive on there. If the cover's ever down, just get your key, the flat end of your key or a screwdriver, and unclip it, lift it up, and that's your positive. Weight plate here, so 3.5 ton gross vehicle weight, 5.5 ton train weight. So if you were to put a tow bar on this, you can tow 2 ton behind you. So this is just a little add-on from where I was speaking about the fresh water. So this is the connection you need. So it's a square wheel connector, and you can either get it in this length, which has got a hose connector on the end, or you can get it where you can drop it into a submersible. It'll have a submersible pump on the end, and you can drop it into a container, an aqua roll, and it'll suck the water up. But normally you just put this on here, connect it, connect the other end to the tap on the site, and fill the vehicle with fresh water. So when you arrive on board the vehicle, this is your main 12-volt control panel. So if you're hooked up, you'll get this little icon here, which looks like a hookup lead. If you're not, you'll just get 12 volt off your main leisure battery. So make sure that you've got enough charge in your leisure battery. To turn your 12 volt system on, which is known as your master switch, it's this button here. So it'll say master on. That'll give 12 volt around the vehicle. 240 if you're hooked up. Pump, making sure you've got enough water on board, you can turn your pump on and off. Make sure you turn your pump off if you haven't got any water on board, because you'll burn the pump out. Lights on and off, this is your master switch for your lights, so you can turn that on and off. And then you do have your awning light, which is the light on the outside of the vehicle. So if you're sitting underneath the canopy and it's getting a bit dusk, you can turn your awning light on. Go up and down, you can view the active battery. Always wants to be the leisure battery. Never let that be the vehicle battery, because it may flatten the engine battery, but you can swap it over in case of emergency just for that little bit of 12 volt. But the leisure battery is designed to power the motorhome. Wastewater levels, which is 0 because you've seen I opened the tap from outside, and the fresh water is 64%. External temperature being 21 degrees and internal being 92 Fahrenheit. You've also got a online manual, so you can go in there and you can sort out your display settings, your sound settings, your temperature reading. You want that to be Celsius there, so I've changed that. And your firmware tells you your firmware number, so if you ever need to update the panel, you can know what firmware your panel's running. So that's your control panel. Got some storage up here. TV, we've added this TV. They don't come standard with the televisions. We've put this on for the customer that's collecting this vehicle. But you do have, behind the telly, you have some switches. So you've got some light switches here. So make sure your master switch for your lights is turned on, then you can adjust them. Storage underneath here. So to operate your Aldi heating and hot water system, this is your control panel here. So you just need to press the right, or should I say the left hand dial, which is the on button. It'll load up. And then before you press the menu, I'll just explain this. So it's telling you that the internal temperature of the inside of the van is 29.5 degrees. The fan's on circulation and it's hooked up. To change anything, you go into the menu. So on the top, you've got a plus and a minus near the thermometer in the house. This is how hot you want the inside of your vehicle to be. So this is your room temperature. You can adjust that by pressing the plus and the minus, but always make sure that it is above outside air temperature. It's no good at being 15 degrees outside and you having it to 15 degrees inside, because it'll not work. Next, you've got the picture of the shower head. This is hot water. So if you haven't got any water on board in the boiler, you'd have that turned off, which is like that. Press it once on the plus and this has turned it on. Press it twice and it's put it on a boost setting, which will turn off the heating and prioritise the water first. So if we want them to run together, you just have it on half a bar. Next, you've got which energy source you want to heat the water and the van, or just the water, or just the van on its own. So this is the energy source you're wanting it to run off. So electric, so you've got electric on 1 kilowatt, which is 750 watts. Electric on 2 kilowatts, which is 1500 watts. And electric on 3 kilowatts, which is 3000 watts. So it all depends on the amperage the site gives you, will determine whether you use 1, 2 or 3. Normally on most sites throughout the UK you'd use 2. If you do trip the vehicle out when you've got on 3, just turn it down, or if you have it on 2 and you're tripping the van out, turn it down. So if you plan on putting it on 2 kilowatts, but you're going to put the mains kettle on, you're going to put the microwave on, it might trip the van, so turn this down first. If you're wild camping, you can turn it on gas on its own, which is this one here. So that's gas, which will heat the vehicle or the water, or whichever you've got selected. If you're away in the winter, what I would do is to start it up, I'd put on 2 kilowatts of electric and gas together, leave it 20 minutes, it'll take the chill off the van, turn the gas off and allow the electricity to maintain and continue to heat the vehicle. This will take the chill off, because the Aldi system does take a little bit longer to warm up because it's like a central heating system. You don't get instant heat from your central heating system at home. It does take 20 minutes to half an hour at the start to feel the heat come through, because it's pushing glycol through the radiators in the van, but it has to heat that glycol first. Going into the settings, you can program timers and things, and you can prioritize. It'll be down to set to prioritize electric, which is what you want. You don't want it to prioritize gas. But should you ever get a failure where this starts flashing red and it'll come up failure, to clear it, just keep going down until you hit reset, and you can reset the system. You've turned that off, you can turn it back on, and you just have to select the room temperature, the water, the energy source, either being gas or electric again. So you can see there that it's set it back to 22 degrees, but the water's on, it's on 1 kilowatt, the gas is on. We'll select that at 2, and we'll put the gas on so we can show you both sources heating your water on board. So in the kitchen, you've got a mains 800 watt microwave, which, should you get any problems with, the isolation plug is just in the top cupboard here, and you've got another cupboard there, so just press the catches in at the bottom to open your overhead cupboards. One electric hot plate, which this light will light up, and that's the back one, but you've got to be hooked up for that to work. Otherwise you do have 3 gas. Once you've had the gas on, allow them to cool. It's the same as the electric, just until it's cool enough to put your hand upon, until you put the glass lid down. Otherwise you could shatter the glass hob top. Underneath you do have your grill, and under your grill you've got your oven. Just underneath the oven it's where you will find your 3 or your 4 gas isolation taps. These are valves what you can close if you have a suspected gas leak, but these are mainly for when the vehicle is annually serviced. The technician will shut off each appliance and read each gas item. Any problems with gas, turn the bottle off, but if you were to turn them off, I'll show you how to do it. So we'll pick the fridge one, which is this one here. That's on, turn it like that, and that is off. That'll shut the supply from the bottle to the pipeline of the fridge. Storage drawer, storage in there as well. As long as your pump's on, you'll get a pressurized flow of water. Hot, that's getting the temperature there, so that is hot as I've got the hot water on. And cold, obviously hot will only work as long as you've had the Aldi boiler system on. We've got a bit of storage up here. There's a vent for the microwave in either corner, and then further back some storage above the fridge. But to use your slimline fridge freezer from Dometic, your controls are all here. So you can see that you've got 3 sources there. So you've got mains electric, you've got off on the top mains electric, battery, which is off the engine when the engine's running. It's not off the leisure battery, so this is only designed to maintain the temperature when traveling. So it's got to be chilled beforehand on either gas or electric, and then gas at the bottom. So select it on mains if you're on a site when you start to travel, and it's been pre-chilled. So if you're lucky enough to keep this at home, what I would do is a couple of days before I go away, I'd hook the motorhome up, allow the leisure battery to take charge, but also put my fridge on. I'd put my fridge on just so that it chills on full temperature, and then the night before I'd put my shopping in once I've been shopping. Allow that to chill, and then before I unhook the vehicle, I would start the engine, come back here, pop that onto battery there, unhook the van and drive away. That'll keep the shopping nice and fresh. It'll act like a giant cool box and just keep everything nice and fresh. Or if I was going wild camping, I'd go down onto gas. With gas, you need to press this in and the ignition, and you want the orange band to go into the green. Once it's in it, you can let go, and it is lit on gas. When not using the fridge, it's very important that you leave the door open, so pull the little white clip open and it'll stop the door from locking on itself and allow ventilation once you've switched the fridge off, so that you don't get smells within the motorhome. So in the compartment here, just level with your habitation door when you come in, if you just lift the infill in the floor, this is your freshwater tank. So removing the cap, you'll be able to drain off your freshwater tank should you've taken on a source of contaminated water, or you're winterizing it for the winter, which is where you want all the water out of the tank. There's no tap on the outside of the van for the fresh water, but there is the dirty. All you need to do is put your hand in, there's a plug, and you need to pull it out, and it'll drain off your fresh water. Pop your plug back in when you're ready to reuse it and fill it with water from outside using the connection to the hose pipe. So in the raised floor at the front of the van, there's another section in the floor. If you open it up and then lift the plastic cover off, this is the location of your leisure battery. So the leisure battery on board is a banger battery, which is 100 amp hour. So that's where your leisure battery is. So should you ever need to replace it, you just lift the battery out. Or if you're ever putting it into storage in the winter, we strongly recommend the battery is charged every 2 weeks. Great if you're keeping it at home, because you can just hook it up to the house. If you are in a storage yard with no facility of electric, take the leisure battery home with you and put it on a charger in the garage and maintain the charge in the battery, because if they ever go flat and you leave them flat for a while, it knacks the cells in the battery and then you have to replace the leisure battery. So in the wardrobe at the back, you do have your Aldi header tank. So the header tank is filled with antifreeze, which is called glycol. So if you ever need to top it up, all you need to do is take the cover off, cap, mix the antifreeze and pour it in. The antifreeze has a 5-year life cycle, so every 5 years it's recommended that your system is fully flushed out, drained of the glycol, and a new load of glycol is put in here. So changing your liquid to give you the best antifreeze so that it doesn't freeze and cause any damage. Always run the system up before thinking of topping it up, because you've got a min and a max there. It's halfway there. You might think, oh, I'm going to top it up to max. When you turn it on, it'll be up here. So make sure that you run the system up, because it's an expanding liquid when the liquid gets warm, before topping it up. But should you ever need to top it up from the top, breather pipe, and like I say, every 5 years, either if you bring it back to us or any other caravan or motorhome dealer, they should be able to completely drain the system and top it up. The 6 different liquids that Aldi recommend, go on their website, and you may have to carry some spare with you just in case, but they recommend 6 different antifreezes that they guarantee. So within the van, there's 2 of these switches. There's one here and there's one in your front lounge, and all it does is, it is a fan that ventilates the heat around the vehicle. So it's a 12-volt assisted fan, so when you turn it on, just out of here, you'll get a fan that's blowing the heat out if the heating was on. If not, it'll just blow cold air out. But in the winter, that's great for just keeping the space warm. Turn them on. As much as it's a radiator system, it does have the fan function of blowing the air around the vehicle. So underneath the bed, you've got a bit of storage where I'm sat, but you've also got your Aldi boiler. So your Aldi boiler does 2 jobs: provides the heating and provides the hot water. This holds 10 litres of hot water, which is automatically filled from the freshwater tank when you open the hot side of the tap. In the winter, it's very important that you winterize the vehicle and avoid it from getting damaged by the frost. So what you need to do is drain off the fresh and the waste. Drain your boiler off, and to drain your boiler off, there's a little drain down toggle here. So this yellow toggle, you'd stand up on end like so, and it'll drain off 10 litres of water directly out underneath the van. Leave it stood up when you're not using it, and when you're ready to reuse it, you just flick it back down, and it'll stop it from draining and allow it to hold the 10 litres of water. Do that without the pump on and it'll mean that it'll drain all the water out, but drain your fresh and your waste off first and then lift your boiler toggle up. Open all your taps within the van just so no water sits in any pipelines, and turn your pump on for a split second, so 10 seconds on with the pump button, let it spit that last bit of water out and turn it off. When you come to reuse it, put your plug back in your fresh water, close your waste, close your boiler, close all your taps, fill the vehicle by connecting it to the hose pipe. Once you've got sufficient water on board, come in, put the control panel on, put the pump on. Go to the cold side of the tap first, you'll get an automatic pressurised feed of cold water. Go to the hot side, they'll start to cough and splutter. And what it's doing is it's transferring the water from the tank that's at the front, your freshwater tank, into here, pushing all the air out through that tap that you've got open until you get a pressurised flow. Once you've got a pressurised flow from, say, the kitchen tap, move on to the hand basin tap and then the shower tap, then the system is primed. But always drain off your boiler when we're experiencing colder temperatures so that the water doesn't freeze when storing the vehicle.
Okay.
In your washroom, you've got your light here on the cord so you can turn your light on. Little radiator so you can hang your toilet roll there. It'll keep it warm and keep this space warm as well. To operate your toilet, you want to press the blue button, which is your flush button, which comes from your freshwater tank. So always give it a little flush first, put a small amount of water in, then before you use it you want to open the blade, which is a grey lever on the bowl of the toilet. Slide that to the right to open, use the toilet, flush it, close it. If you've got any pink liquid, your pink liquid doesn't go anywhere, so there's no separate tank because your fresh water is fed from your main freshwater tank for your flush. So what I would do is get an empty spray bottle, put a small amount of pink in, rest water, spray, flush, open, close, and it does the same job. Cleans the bowl and gives it's a neutralising spray as well, so it'll kill any smells. When this cassette is full, you'll get a few green lights underneath the diagram of the cassette. That means it's full. So you'd empty it, pop it back in. If them lights were still on, it's a float that's got stuck. Take it out, shake the cassette, pop it back in. Happens from time to time on all motorhomes. Toiletry cabinet. Toiletry cabinet. Make sure your shower screens are tied back with the straps before travel, just to mean that they're not going to cause any damage. Clean this whole shower screen and shower tray out with only light chemicals, no thick hard bleaches, light cloths, no scourers, because you'll take the finish off. So what I would do is just use a Dettol spray and a microfiber cloth or some Fairy Up liquid and just wash it all out. Hanging rail for towels, wet coats, let them drip dry, or if you're not using the shower, because most sites are like 5-star hotels now, you're paying a lot for a site, they've got a lovely shower block on site, you can double this up as a wardrobe by putting a few hanging rails on there if you're going on a longer trip. When winterizing, we always recommend that you unscrew the shower head from the hose, because the water could sit in here and potentially freeze. Lie the hose in the tray with all the mixer taps open. Should you be having problems with your electrical system on board, whether that be 12 volt or mains 240 volt, come here and you've got your electric unit. So you've got all your fuses at the bottom on electric for 12 volts. So this is 12 volt fuses. Carry some spare 12 volt fuses with you just in case one does blow, and it's as simple as pulling one out, checking the fuse. You can see there that the middle is still intact. If the middle wasn't, it would be blown and it would be the case of replacing the fuse. So it's dead easy just to pick a fuse out, and it's labelled what they do, and above you've got your mains, MCBs and RCDs for mains electric. So if you trip the van, try here before you try your site. For ever what reason, if you thought you weren't receiving power, the best way to check is either check the microwave's working. If it's not working, just press the trips. If it trips, then you are receiving power. If it doesn't trip, then you're not, and I would try the lead or where you're getting the electric from. To operate your Avtex Pro TV, there's a button on the side here which is an on-off, which is the master switch. You want to turn it on so that the button's just there, so the red light comes on. When the red light comes on, you can then use the remote. Press it and it'll go to blue. And this is a 12 volt television, so it'll work off the leisure battery, making sure that it's got charge. If the leisure battery's dead, it'll not work, and it'll have a cutout. When the leisure battery gets too low, the telly will just say low power mode and switch itself off. So that's your telly working. To retune it every time you move site, you just press AQT, press OK, and it'll start to tune and find as many channels as it can. It will go to about 50% and you'll think it hasn't picked up anything, and then as soon as it gets to 50-60%, it'll start pulling in loads of channels for the TV. It does have a HDMI if you want to put a smart stick in there. As long as you can connect it to the internet off your phone, you'll be able to use catch-up services such as Netflix, ITV Hub and iTV and iPlayer. Should you still be struggling for a TV signal, come to your TV aerial. If you have boosters up on the max, or if it's on max and it's pixelating, turn it down. Then if you're still struggling, just loosen the nut off, push the stem up, tighten it to keep the aerial up, and you can use the toggle to direct the aerial on the roof. But the best tip I can give you is look where the other motorhomes and caravans are pointing on your site. Point yours in the similar direction and you shouldn't have to mess on for too long. You should get a good enough signal because someone's already done it for you. And make sure that you pull the aerial in and tighten before travelling so that the wind can't damage the TV aerial. And this side, in this overhead locker, behind your driver's seat, you've got your solar panel regulator. So it's a dual charger, and you can see that 1 and 2 are flashing. It means it's charging your leisure battery and your engine battery. But no, your solar panel won't charge your batteries when hooked up. It'll only charge your batteries when not hooked up, because it's receiving mains voltage, which is a lot higher of a voltage than a 12 volt panel could ever supply. But it's great if you're putting it into storage or it's sitting on the drive. It'll just maintain the batteries. But we always recommend in the winter, every 2 weeks the batteries are charged, making sure that you don't forget about the engine. So make sure you drive it from time to time in the winter to avoid the tyres from getting cracking and flat spots, and also to give the engine battery a top up and making sure that you get the engine nice and hot and things, and you look after the engine in the winter.